Good evening, everyone. How are you all? I've come on tonight to have a chat to you all because I get asked a lot of questions regarding protein, when we should be having shakes, how are they formulated, which are the best ones. And I just thought it'd be easier to come on and just do you a little bit of a deep dive into protein shakes. I've done a real comprehensive actual guide on BCAAs and how they're formulated and which ones you should be taking at what times of the day, post, pre-workout, etc. throughout the day. And I did quite a deep dive on that. I went really deep on that. And I want to talk to you tonight about protein. And I want to talk to you primarily about different types of dairy protein. Okay, we know that there are hemp, we know there are pea, we know there are soy proteins. Of course, whatever your dietary preferences are, you can absolutely explore those and you can have them. And you know, the digestion rates of those are going to be what the parameters are that kind of surround them and what you're looking for. But tonight I'm going to be primarily focusing on sort of like whey protein and derivatives from actually, you know, when they manufacture certain dairy products, the byproduct that they take from it or they remove from it is actually the protein, the whey protein. Okay, they dry it out, they generally add maybe some preservatives to it, generally add some dyes to it so that obviously it's more flavoursome, hence why you can get sort of cookie crisp and you can get caramel flavours and chocolate flavours. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about 4 different types of actual proteins that are from dairy. Okay, as long as you're okay with digesting dairy and you don't have no big sort of like reaction to it, generally speaking, you'll be all right drinking it. Okay, some people obviously have lactose intolerant, and that's why some of the protein shakes are actually formulated that help you break down, and some that are even going down the route of even going down to lactose free, they are more expensive. So first of all, we need to look obviously that protein is absolutely fantastic. We utilize it in our body after we've worked out or any time of the day to, you know, help repair our muscles. When we obviously go to the gym and we cause inflammation in the muscle, we get tiny micro tears. Our androgen receptors are primed after we've worked out. We take the protein in, they bind, and we actually build muscle. That's a very simplified version of it. So my job is to turn complexity into simplicity, so you know exactly what you want to purchase without deep diving your head into lots of, you know, literature, lots of textbooks, and lots of trial and error. So first of all, you got to ask yourself the question when you're having a protein shake or where you're having any kind of like, you know, supplement, is what are you having it for? Are you having it to aid recovery? Are you having it to aid performance? Are you having it to just give you the macronutrients you need throughout the day should you be struggling to hit your numbers of calories that you're consuming through the day? Now, you know, if I talk a bit, so like from a client perspective, obviously I have all my clients hit a certain type of protein level within their macronutrients, and I understand that in order to do that, sourcing it primarily from whole foods for some people who don't eat a huge amount of foods, that may be difficult. Of course, if you're eating nuts, eggs, chicken, fish, etc., lots of other things, then you're going to be hitting your protein quota. But if it is that you're 30-40 grams short of your protein quota for that day, or want something that's going to be readily available, easy to assimilate after you've trained or immediately waking up in the morning to break that fast from the evening, from the nighttime, a protein shake is fantastic for that. Okay, so the first protein I'm going to talk about is the slowest digesting of all the proteins, okay? And that's going to be casein. Casein, again, is derived from creating dairy products. It is a slow digesting protein called casein, and primarily it has a higher concentration of carbohydrates, and also the process of our body utilizing, okay, the components in this shake are slowed down because it has a higher concentration of milk. So if you typically had a protein shake and you added milk to it, you are going to slow the digestion of that down to 4 to 6 to even 8 hours. So lots of people opt for casein before they go to bed because their body can just keep chipping away at it. A little bit like having like branched chain aminos throughout the whole entire day. You've got a constant, steady drip feed of protein going in. Okay, so you can have casein on an evening, and you know that your body's going to be absorbing that protein throughout the night. So you're technically not fasting for that period of time with an empty stomach, not getting any kind of anabolic activity going on from actual, you know, sourcing any protein. The third one I'm going to talk to you about is whey protein. This is the one that I take, and this is actually 100% whey protein, okay? It's formulated with a plant enzyme in there to help break down the lactose that is in this. And whey protein is fantastic lots of flavors. It comes in, readily available in most health clubs. You can just grab it out of the fridge. You can even get a clear whey version where they've formulated it so it's more like a cordial. For me personally, I don't particularly like drinking those. I find them just a little bit too sugary, but that's just my preference. You can absolutely drink those if you want. The whey protein is probably the third slowest digesting protein, and it will take your body anywhere between sort of like 3 to 4 hours to fully digest a full protein shake of whey, okay? And mix it with water. Don't add milk to it because that's going to slow the digestion process down, and effectively you're just upping the amount of protein that's in that shake. So your body's only going to utilize a certain amount. Most people will only absorb anywhere between 20 to 30 grams of protein, dependent on their body size and body weight. Obviously, you're going to be super receptive once you've trained, so your body will be susceptible to maybe absorbing another 10 grams. So that's where you can utilize a protein shake that's formulated with a higher concentration of protein, okay? So that's whey protein. Now, they are all effectively a whey of some description because they're all a byproduct of being created from a milk product. But what's actually happened is there is a second slowest digestion. So you've got a first place, which is the fastest, second, which is actually isolate. Okay. Isolate is formulated with less carbohydrates, higher concentration of protein, and it's been designed so the components within it are smaller so you can assimilate them faster. And the digestion rate of an isolate shake taken immediately after training can be anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. So it's perfect. If you're trying to really fill that gap, or immediately upon waking, you want to have a shake and really get that engine going and get those macros in there as soon as you can have an isolate. Isolate tends to sit with people a lot better in terms of their digestion. It tends to be thinner in body. And I mean, when you shake it, it generally doesn't tend to be as heavy to shake. It's got less body, and your body can assimilate it slightly easier because it's not going down with any carbohydrates. It's not having to differentiate between proteins and carbs. It's just simply taking in the protein, very little carbohydrates attached to it, and your body can assimilate it much faster, hence why there is a faster digestion rate on that. And then the fourth one is one that not many people know about. I have had a couple of people actually say, oh, I've actually seen this. And it's not something that I ever really mention because it is not essential at all. Some clever scientist has developed an even faster digesting protein, and it is a substract of isolate, and it's called hydrolyzed. And what they've actually done is they have micronized the components that are formulated within that shake and made them even smaller. So they pass through the membrane and are getting absorbed a lot faster, okay? Your body can do stuff with them much faster, and these can be assimilated as fast as anywhere between sort of half an hour to an hour. There is a hefty price tag attached to hydrolyzed whey. As you can imagine, there's a lot more done when they're formulating it. It's, again, generally even thinner in body when you drink it, and your body can do a lot with it faster. It doesn't mean to say the quality of that protein is any better. It just means your body can do something with it faster. So I say to everybody who isn't already hitting their protein quota from Whole Foods to source a good quality protein powder. What do good quality protein powders look like? They can look like Gold Standard. They can look like Cytec. They can look like BSN, Applied Nutrition. They can look like bulk powders if you're happy to have bulk powders. My Protein. All of these brands will be, hopefully, Informed Sports tested brands that are all legitimate in it is what it says it in when you open the tub. And that's very important. For me, I generally will only sort of like have things that are Informed Sports tested and things where I know there's legitimacy behind it, and I will research the brands. And of course, you can absolutely go away and do that. I've seen the process of how protein is created. I've studied the process of how it's actually absorbed through the body, through the proteolysis process. And I've also seen the application of it through my own training and also research myself. So I know every process of how your body utilizes protein. Look, the aminos that are contained within actual protein, of course, I'm always going to say go for Whole Foods first. But due to the convenience now of being able to get protein puddings, protein bars, protein shakes, it's an absolute no-brainer, and there's literally no excuse why anybody can't be hitting their quota. At least they should be having, you know, best part of 3/4 to a gram of protein per pound of body weight, really. If you're training excessively, if you're absolutely hammering and you're hyper responsive, of course you can increase that. You know, I don't really feel, and I don't see any evidence supporting the fact that some people who weigh 14 stone need to be consuming 300-400 grams of protein every single day. It just seems ridiculous. There's going to come a point when your body can't do anything with it. When you consider most people eat 3-4 times a day, if you can get 30-35 grams of protein in each one of those meals, or even 20 grams is better than nothing, you're going to at least be putting yourself in a chance where you're going to be repairing and giving yourself the chance where you're going to be actually going forward. Because what you've got to consider is when you're taking protein, you don't want just enough just to repair or just to help cellular function. You want enough to get you past that. So therefore, you need to obviously keep loading that protein. So once your body's repaired, it's actually, you know, building on actually stepping forward and promoting hypertrophy. So they're the 4 different types of protein you can get that come from, obviously, dairy. There are pea proteins, soy proteins, hemp proteins. These are generally quite fast digesting proteins. I don't consume them, and why I don't consume them is generally because A, I don't particularly like the taste of them, and B, I found a whey protein that actually sits with me, and that's the Cytec. It's the only brand really that works for me, other than the gold standard, which has always worked for me, that I can actually digest myself. I don't drink a huge amount of dairy. I don't drink milk generally. You know, I might have the odd yogurt or mousse and the odd product that contains milk, but I don't actively go out there and eat something off the menu that is heavy in dairy. That just has never been the case for me. And, you know, that's not because I've any ethical reason behind it. That's just generally because it just doesn't agree with me. And it just so happens to fall into the category that, you know, some people may say, oh, well, are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? No, I don't eat steak either. You know, it's just certain things don't agree with certain people. And it's just the digestive side of me is more so the reason. You know, ethics are attached to things as well. And I know a lot of people are obviously vegan and vegetarian, and that's absolutely great. You know, everyone's different, and like I said at the start of this chat, you can take whatever protein supplement you want. You want to be making sure it's at least got bare minimum 20 grams of protein per serving. Otherwise, you're going to have heaps and heaps and heaps of it. You know, super concentrated protein powders that should be 20-25 grams per scoop is absolutely what you want. Protein has gone up in price now, obviously, because we know that dairy's gone up, but you can still get a decent tub that, you know, is sort of 40 servings, 30 to 40 servings for roughly anywhere between sort of 30-40 quid. You know, this brand here is 50 quid, and I think I get like 40-50 servings from it. Probably I have a little bit less because I may have a scoop and a half, but you generally get the idea. So they're your different types of protein. And what I would suggest in terms of finding out which protein works for you is, when you're in like a health club or you're in a supermarket and you want to try a protein to see what sits with you, if it's the first time you're going to have a protein, just try getting a couple off the shelf that are £1 or £2 and seeing which brand works for you. There is loads in the supermarket. You could get On Nutrition, BSN, Maximuscle. They're all in there, and they're all fantastic brands. They wouldn't be there if they're not great. They've stood the test of time. You know, they're sold in Holland and Barrett. They're absolutely fantastic. And just see which one of them formulated with that protein that you're hoping to purchase sits with you. If you drink it, body digests it, and it feels like it sits well, get yourself a tub. If you have it and you're like, not great, you've only lost £1. Get another one and see how that sits with you, and explore that option of just going through, trying a few different shakes that work for you. And that's literally how I came across this one, because I was in a health club and I was like, I need a shake. I've just trained. I knew it was going to be a period of time till we ate. Me and Kelly was working away, and I just went, do you know what? I'm going to try one of these. And it was the first one I ever had afterwards, and went, do you know what? There's no bloat. It feels absolutely great. And I didn't really notice whether I'd recovered any well, because it'd be impossible for me to have said after one shake. But having consistently taken protein shakes and BCAAs, if I, for whatever reason, remove them or take them away, we went away to London 2 weeks ago, and all weekend I didn't have any shakes or any BCAAs, and I'd come off the back of a big training session that morning, a massive leg session, and all weekend I was flagging, and I was like, man, I need my BCAAs. Those of you that know me know that I fill this up twice a day. This is 1.5 litres filled with BCAAs. And I just know that bare minimum, I'm getting a steady, slow drip feed of BCAAs. I do take leucine in its own raw form, and I spoke about that when I did the BCAA talk, talking all about the branched chain amino acids and, you know, what they are, what they do to the body, how many of them there is, and I went on a real deep dive into that. And today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about protein and just, you know, give my honest version on it, pull from a little bit of literature that actually says this is the reason, this is the benefits, this is why you should be taking it, and then you can just make your own judgment on it. But I strongly say that if you're the sort of person that is training hard, struggling to recover, or not hitting your protein content and want to just fill that macro count up just a little bit more full and make sure you hit your protein content by the end of the day, having a protein shake is a fantastic way to do it. And you know what? As science develops, the protein content is going up and the calories are coming down. There's four calories per gram of protein. And when you look at the back of a protein shake and you see, right, okay, I'm getting 50 grams of protein, so you know that's 200 calories for argument's sake, and the shake is 280 calories, you know there's only 80 grams worth of additives, carbohydrates, things that they've put in there as, you know, bulkers and carriers to make sure that the shake actually tastes decent. Otherwise it'll taste like it did back in the day when it was just slushing around some horrible discolored milk with no flavor, which I remember. It was basically like drinking a shaker of Marvel milk back in the day, and it was absolutely vile. So look for something reasonably low calorie. You want to be looking at a protein shake, really shouldn't be any more than 400 calories per serving. I've seen some as low as 200, you know, 250 for sort of like 30-40 gram protein serving. And you can just have a little shop around, have a look at the ingredients, have a look at exactly what you're looking for. Do you want one that's formulated with creatine, so you don't have to purchase creatine? Do you want one that's formulated with a higher concentration of amino acids? You can absolutely do that. Do you want one that's, you know, a higher concentration of protein? There are shakes out there that have creatine formulated with additional BCAAs and higher protein profiles, but you're going to obviously have to pay for that. And, you know, I don't choose to think anyone's probably consuming the level of protein that I potentially am throughout the day. But if you are, it can get expensive. So just stick to shake in the morning or shake directly after training. The most important meal you're going to have if you're training is going to be that meal first thing in the morning and the meal after you've trained. I would argue to some degree that it's the meal after you've trained, because that's when the most inflammation has occurred, your glycogen's depleted, you're fatigued, your body is in a state where it needs some good nutrition to come back in because it's been a trauma for the body. Exercise is a trauma. As much as it's a stimulus and a catalyst to making fantastic things happen, it's still a mild trauma for the body, whichever way you look at it. And you need that nutrients to go in there, do its job, and then you can be on your way to the gun show. So I hope that helps. It is, again, fortunately, a subject that I'm very passionate about, and something I know, happen to know quite a little bit about, just from trial and error, and obviously my teachings, and also my research, my experience, the amount of time I've been in the industry. If anybody needs any more questions on protein, I can absolutely answer them. But guys, honestly, don't overcomplicate it outside of that. Casein, whey isolate hydrolyzed. They're literally your 4 different types of protein that are going to be coming from dairy. And then you've got your pea, your hemp, your soy, possibly a couple of others. So that's it. It isn't as complicated as it looks, I assure you. And just get yourself a decent whey isolate, drink it, and you will notice a difference in your recovery and in your progress and your quest to building a fitter, faster body. Have fun.